The way of looking at the trade deficit is, in not looking so much one by one, country by country, but looking at the overall trade deficit with the entire globe and looking at where the comparative advantages are for the U.S. and the comparative advantages are for other countries in terms of trade. I think if Biden is elected as president, there will be this little more of a bit more of a global assessment of trade patterns and not being so concerned with how the U.S. is doing individually with one country in a bilateral way around the world, but take more of a global approach. And also then try to work with industrial policy, with investment policy in the U.S. to try to help promote and develop the industries in the U.S. that have the greatest comparative advantage around the world.
Now, on your list, important economic agendas investors must pay attention of from each candidate. Let's say related to the several economic policies like taxations and then trade relations with other countries, job creation plan, and so forth.
Well, it's a little bit tough because the Trump administration has not really laid out a clear economic plan. The Republican Party doesn't really have a clear platform that they've laid out for voters, whereas Biden has laid out a very, very clear pattern, a platform. I think the one policy of the Trump administration that is very clear is that they will continue with tax cuts, that the tax cuts that were put in place that will expire at the end of 2024, there will be a strong effort to extend those tax cuts and make them permanent. I think that will be the primary approach to stimulus, along with some infrastructure that the Trump administration is discussing as well. So some infrastructure spending and tax cuts to try to, again, bolster investment in the U.S. For Biden, it's a little bit broader. There will be tax increases for Biden to help pay for some of the spending plans that he has, essentially reversing the tax increases the tax decreases that the Trump administration put into place. And there is a massive program in play written up in the Biden platform for infrastructure investment and education and healthcare. Infrastructure to improve productivity, education to elevate the skills of the workforce, and frankly, to bring more people into the labor force. This is a pretty critical component of the economic growth longer term for the U.S. is to make sure that the labor force growth is consistent with a fairly high skill level. And then, of course, COVID-19 has laid bare some of the weaknesses in the healthcare system in the U.S., and Biden will be looking to shore up Obamacare and to make sure that the healthcare system is serving all. All this is meant to say that probably under a Biden presidency, that there is greater potential for improved productivity growth over the long term if indeed these programs can be put into place and executed efficiently and quickly. And that productivity growth could lead to a rate of economic growth for the U.S. through the next 4 years at least, perhaps longer, that might be a little bit stronger than what one might expect under the current policies of President Trump.